In the meantime, tough love from the Gov, only this ain't just any Gov, and this ain't just tough love. For screaming public workers in New Jersey, this is war. They are going bonkers today after Governor Chris Christie all but told them the party's over, guys, and he is cracking down on their pensions. First, by suspending future cost of living adjustments, then rescinding a 9% benefit increase granted back in 2001, then increasing retirement ages and even changing the formula for which a lot of those benefits are set. The governor is also calling for state workers to kick in more for their pension and their health care benefits. Common in the private sector, virtually unknown in New Jersey's public sector. Well, let us just say that this news hasn't exactly got state workers feeling misty for Christie. The teachers union, the first out the gate, promising to fight the governor. Reaction now from the governor. Joining me exclusively from Edison, New Jersey, Governor Chris Christie. Governor, good to have you.
Great to be back, Neil. Thanks for having me.
Well, you're creating a bit of a firestorm, Governor. They say you're being unfair, a lot of these public worker chiefs. What do you say?
Listen, the simple fact is, Neil, that the system is completely out of control. Right now, the system is $46 billion underfunded on the pension side. And if we do nothing except just make our state contributions to the plan and don't change it at all, in 15 years we'll be $85 billion underfunded. And on the health benefits side, we're already $67 billion underfunded. I mean, we are teetering towards insolvency if we don't deal with these long-term obligations that the state has. Now, I know that there are some public workers who aren't happy about it today, but what I tell all of them is, you may not like this today, but 10 years from now, when you have a pension to collect and health benefits to collect, you're going to be looking for my address to send me a thank you note.
Well, not all of them are reacting that way, Governor. Some are saying a promise was made and a promise should be kept from 2001, long before you assumed office, of course, that gave them this 9% increase. Now they say the governor can't just willy-nilly take that one back. What do you say?
Well, listen, for the money that they've earned for that 9% increase over the last 10 years, they keep it. But going forward, they have no right to keep it. We shouldn't have done it in the first place. It was actually Republicans who did it, Neil. It was a bad idea in 2001. It's a bad idea now. There's no way to pay for it. It's unjustified, and it's contributing to the underfunding of this system to the tune of $46 billion, heading towards an $85 billion underfunding. So what we need to do is reform the system so that there are pensions available for folks when they go to retire. This isn't about promises made and kept. This is about special interests squeezing benefits out of the government and out of the taxpayers that we can no longer afford to pay, and I'm not going to stand for it.
Governor, one thing that's getting very little talk, but it is interesting, is that you are demanding public workers in your state kick in more to their pension and their health care benefits. In many cases, they don't have to pay anything. Now, of course, that is very unusual in the private sector, certainly unusual for folks here at Fox. We do. But addressing that reality is like a third rail of politics that you just hit. Are you worried about that?
No, I'm not worried about it. What I'm worried about is my children and grandchildren not being able to afford to live in New Jersey. I'm worrying about us becoming insolvent. Remember, Neil, this is a state that I took over in March, January rather. By March of that year, if we had not taken drastic steps to cut back spending, we wouldn't have been able to meet payroll. I mean, New Jersey is in a desperate situation, and we are a preview for what the rest of the country is about to handle. So I'm worried about the politics of this. I just had a town hall meeting here in Edison. These folks get it, Republicans and Democrats. We can't afford this anymore, and we can't shelter one special group of people, public sector unions, from the ravages of this recession and have that shelter paid for by the very people who are getting hurt by the recession the most, the people in the private sector. And so we just can't have it anymore. So I can't worry about the politics, Neil. I have to do what I think is right.
You know, Governor, it's been said that your celebrity has gotten ahead of your opponents here, who are finally appreciating its momentum and your momentum, and now they're going to sort of pick you apart to death, including a budget of which they all signed off on and agreed to. And now they want to sort of, I think if I'm reading it correctly, Governor, go back over it almost line by line and reread it. What do you think of that?
Well, I'm thrilled that they want to go back and reread the budget. Let them go ahead if that's what they want to waste their time on. Well, we have a lot of other important issues like ethics reform, pension and benefit reform, and education reform. Then if that's what they're going to waste their time doing, the voters of the state of New Jersey are going to hold them to account for that. We're going to continue to put forward an active, smart reform agenda that's going to put New Jersey back on the right track. And if they want to go back and use the rearview mirror all the time, I'd remind them that Democrats voted for that budget, and it was a responsible budget that didn't raise taxes. As Republicans, we're happy to take possession of responsibility for that budget. And Democrats are just playing politics down there, and it's just a shame that they do.
If we could switch to Republicans, Governor, there was some disarray in the Republican Party, certainly last night, after Christine O'Donnell won in Delaware and beat a heavily favored sitting congressman who was a party favorite. And at first, the Republican Senatorial Committee said, we're not going to help her, we're not going to fund her. Seemed pretty childish at first. Today, quite the opposite. We're embracing her, we like her, kumbaya.
I don't know what's going on. I mean, the Washington politics are kind of beyond me at times, Neil, I have to tell you. Listen, I think it's a very simple answer. Christine O'Donnell or any other Republican nominee should be supported by the Republican Party. That's why we have primaries. People get to decide who they want to be the nominee of our parties, and then we should support them. So I'm going to continue to support responsible Republican candidates around the country because I believe that our party has the best answers for the problems that plague our country right now, and I think everyone else needs to get on board too.
You know, in my coverage last night on Fox Business Network, which, Governor, if you don't get, you really should demand, but I digress. One of the things that came up, Governor, is you as a rising national star. And a couple of the Tea Partiers took note of the fact that you've got a bit of a extensive travel plan that's taking you to a lot of candidates across the country who want to use your star power to get them elected. And one of those stops, Iowa. What's going on?
Well, Governor Terry Branstad is someone who I have a great deal of respect for. I think he's the kind of person we need to send back to State House in Iowa. And when Governor Branstad asked me to come out and campaign for him, I said yes. It's one of a number of different places that I'm going, and I'm happy to support candidates that I feel like are going to move our country in the right direction. And Governor Branstad's one of those candidates.
Any others that you think are rising stars in your party that particularly stand out? And do they have to ascribe to the kind of things you're doing in New Jersey?
Well, listen, I think somebody like Meg Whitman in California is running a smart, tough race, and I think she's going to bring some real fiscal sanity.
By the way,
to
Governor,
a state that needs it as much as New Jersey.
She just broke the spending record for a candidate on a statewide race. Michael Bloomberg, just running for mayor, had the record. She just – what do you think of that?
Listen, I'm not surprised. Let's count up how much money the public sector unions are spending to support Jerry Brown. So someone like Meg Whitman needs to spend that kind of money just to stay competitive in California against the public sector union machine in California that has basically drained the California Treasury dry with the special interest benefits they've gotten out of compliant governors in the past. So Meg Whitman's doing what she needs to do to stay competitive. I think she's one of the people to really look at. Tom Corbett in Pennsylvania, the current Attorney General, somebody I'm very enthusiastically supporting. I think he's going to do a really, really good job. John Kasich in Ohio is another guy that I'll be working for, going out to visit and supporting, and I'm really excited about how John's doing in that race. And I think he'll be a great governor too. So, I don't want to name a whole bunch more names because there's a lot of other good candidates, Bill Brady in Illinois as well, who I'll be helping. But in the end, those are the kind of people that I think we need to elect to really start a firestorm across this country at the state level that'll help to bring change to America.
You know, Governor, right before